Hi, we're here at the Teacher Educator Conference in Hyderabad 2014. I'm very lucky to have with me Graham Hall, who is the editor of the ELT Journal and is also a lecturer at the University of Northumbria in Newcastle. Graham, welcome and thank you for taking the time out of your, I'm sure, busy schedule to come and speak to us.
Thank you for asking.
Okay. First question really is about the theme of the conference. You can see it here, obviously, innovation in English language teacher education. I was wondering, what's your interpretation of that theme?
I think the word innovation is really interesting because just to pick up on a comment that's been made a couple of times in presentations at the conference, innovation will be different for different people in different contexts, and so what's innovative for me might not be innovative for you, and what's innovative in one context, professional context, one country, one sector, with one age group might not be innovative elsewhere. So I think there's a lot of flexibility within the word innovation. I wonder if we associate it therefore with the idea of newness, and I'm not quite sure that is perfect as a synonym either. Innovation, I guess, comes from trying to develop and trying to reflect on what we do and possibly change if we think it's the right thing to do. And I guess innovation for me is maybe to try something different, to see if that trying something new and something different leads to better learning outcomes. Okay. But that could vary as to who we are.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think a lot of people would interpret innovation perhaps as very technology based.
Yeah.
But actually, I think some of the things that we've seen
That's
here
right.
at the conference aren't necessarily grounded in technology. But
no, I think when I first saw the conference theme, you think it's going to be a conference about technology. But I think if you kind of dig deeper, it doesn't have to be. Obviously, technology. There's so much new technology around that a lot of people are innovating around technology, but it's not the technology itself that's necessarily innovative in a teaching context. What people are doing with it, those people that choose to or can, or are in an environment where that's encouraged. But for other people, maybe it's possible that teaching innovatively would be teaching without technology. That's equally innovative teaching if that's all you've ever done is to rely on technological support, whether that be textbooks, interactive whiteboards, iPads, and what have you. So it's an interesting one. I don't think it's quite synonymous with technology. Well, for somebody like me, that's probably a good thing.
I know we've spoken a little bit throughout the conference, and this kind of idea of CPD, which is another thread that's run through the conference. And I know that your interpretation of CPD as a concept is
well. I don't think it's. I think obviously the concept of CPD is something I think nobody would argue against. The broader concept of CPD is something people wouldn't argue against. That the idea that teachers engage professionally and develop their practice or their reflective practice is obviously kind of a good thing. People wouldn't argue against that. But quite what the term CPD is used for, and quite what it's come to mean, I think is a bit more ambiguous. So if we talk about, again, this has been mentioned at the conference, teachers develop. They themselves develop, they cannot be developed, then the notion that we have CPD courses seems to me a slight contradiction. That's not to suggest that CPD courses aren't positive, but I'm just not sure they're quite the same as what we might mean by development. It seems to me they might be kind of training programs, which is fine and legitimate. It's just, are we using the right term? So CPD seems to have become a catch-all for all kind of change. And that's fine, but I don't think we have quite clarified the term properly yet. And it would be good to kind of separate it out into, do we mean personal development, or do we mean kind of institutional-led, programmatic education, if you like? So it's not that I don't like the concept. I think it's just not quite been defined yet.
Okay. You've been very busy. You hosted the debate,
the
debate. On the first day, and you've been part of a panel discussion as well. You've also given a talk about writing for a peer-reviewed journal. And in that talk, you said that peer reviewing is central to the process of writing for a journal. Could you expand on that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, as an editor of a journal, in the end, the decision whether to publish a paper comes down to the editor. But the peer review process, it kind of does what it says on the tin. A paper which comes in is considered for publication. It's not considered for publication only by me. It's sent out to people who are peers of the author, people within the profession who have experience in the area that's been written about, experience of in my case, ELT journal, but whatever journal we're talking about, is looking for the aims and the objectives, the expectations of the readership, and then beyond that, whether the paper works. So a paper is reviewed by others in the profession, and they provide recommendations about that paper to me, which I would then act on, and any other editor in a journal. And the key to peer review is that it's anonymous. So it therefore becomes hopefully and almost certainly a far more objective process where the paper is evaluated on its own strengths and weaknesses. The author doesn't know who the reviewers are, the reviewers don't know who the author is, or authors are. And the whole idea of peer review isn't just to judge a paper and to decide it's publishable or not, but writing a paper, as anybody who's written at all, any kind of article, it's a process, and you have to go back, you have to revise, you have to change things. And so what the peer reviewers do is they review, they provide a comment on the paper, and hopefully provide constructive feedback for authors to develop the paper, most usually into something which becomes more and more publishable as it goes through the process. So review is to kind of decide whether it would be publishable and meets the aims of the journal, but also to help the author in many ways.
Right. Okay. What I noticed in the talk that there was, you did quite a lot of question and answer.
Yeah.
There was quite a lot of interest. There was a lot of interest from the audience.
Yeah.
About how they can get into writing itself.
Yeah.
Have you got any advice? What if anyone's picking out 3 pieces of advice? But do you have any advice?
Well, the first piece of advice would be write with the audience in mind, which fundamentally means write knowing what journal or what publication, or what magazine, what teaching newsletter, what they want and what they're after, what kinds of things they publish, the kinds of format they're looking for, and the kinds of topics that will appeal to their readership. Now that potentially is quite a sort of conservative with a small c issue, because you get what you publish, readers read what's published, and you don't want to just reproduce it. So there's always room for new areas to explore. But fundamentally, the first thing would be that a potential author needs to be familiar with what they're writing for, familiar with the journal, just to help shape the effort they're about to put in. The second thing would be to read the guidelines so that the paper fits the journal. In ELT journal's case, the word limit would be 3,500 to 4,000 words. If a paper comes in at 5,000 words, we can't publish it. So it's a waste of effort. And the final thing would be, and not to discourage people, to encourage people, writing an article, writing anything, as you know with the website, is difficult. And so it's not to give up, not to be discouraged, to keep trying. Everybody that's ever been published, as far as I can work out, will have been rejected at some point, or had to do major revisions on their piece of writing. And it's just to keep going and to shape things, and in the end, hopefully, to get there. That would be the final thing.
I imagine that's very reassuring to.
Yeah, I mean, I've had papers rejected,
yeah.
So I think everybody has. It's the way it works. But from the rejection, you don't just get this isn't publishable. You get advice as to why, right. And then you take that advice and you move on to the next thing.
Okay, thank you. Finally, the theme of this conference, as we said, is innovation in English language teacher education. Mm-hmm. Thinking forward to 2015, have you got any themes that you would like to see covered at the next conference?
No. No. I think the reason I say no is because the journal and sort of my take on the profession at the moment is to reflect what ELT, the interests of people, ELT practitioners, teacher educators, teachers. It's to reflect the interests of the profession. So I think I would be interested to see what comes up as the topic, and then to think around that as an area that for the journal and for myself professionally to sort of think about, rather than for me to sort of say, well, I think the topic should be such. And I don't think that's really quite where we're at, or not where I'm at the moment.
Okay. Graham, thank you very much for
you.
taking the time,
Yeah.
and thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.